Hello and welcome back. Today we're going to continue in our pliers wrench series, and I think we're going to be looking at the main competitor for Knipex. These are also German made. These are made by NWS, and for the price point I believe this is probably going to be the closest one that is going to be a competitor to Knipex. It's right in the same price range at $55 as time of filming. I just looked it up, and that's what I got. These are made in Germany, and they're a pretty nice pair of pliers to look at, grab, feel, the way they sit in your hand, everything. So let's dig into these. Now, we like to take a look at a bunch of things on these when we get them. So first thing we're going to do is take a look at the jaw width to see how wide it is, and we are right at 3/8 wide on the movable jaw, and we are right at 3/8 on the fixed jaw, so we're even there. Next thing we like to take a look at is what the key size is on the tool, and that is what I call the key right here. The unique thing with these, that's right at 1/4, is they have a different design on the other side. I don't know if you can see that. You can see one side has your typical, what I call a key, maybe it's a toggle on it, but the other side has this different design. So I really wanted to take a look at these and see how they worked, just to see how that, if that impacts anything or what that does. So another thing we like to do is take a look at how far these open with the handles closed. We're right at 2 inches on these, which is over the Knipex, and then how far they open with the handle open. And we've said a bunch of times this isn't a useful tool with the handle open all the way like that, but we are at 2 1/8. Last thing I like to see on these is how far can you get something into these while you have them on it. And we could right at 1 3/8. Yeah, we'll be right at 1 3/8 with that. Button operation is another thing that I think is important on these. You do not want to have a nuisance operation, and these you have to get below the flush level line of the tool for the button to work, which is good. The button does stick out proud of the lines of the tool, as you see, but if we go and put something flush on this, I cannot adjust the tool yet. So we have to have the button pushed, and the button does not push super easy, which I think is a plus. I do not like to see the button push easy because it's just something that you can get that nuisance movement as we're talking about. Other thing is jaw fitment, and you can see pretty much like any of the other German made tools, the quality in this is very good. The jaws go back to center every time. I will say this has a bit more movement in it. Hold that in the right angle. Has a bit more movement in it than I would have expected, but they always close right on center. So even if I hold it off, it goes back to center. So they fit and finish is nice with them. That little bit of sloppiness doesn't seem to really impact anything on the tool. Next thing I'd like to consider is how much do these weigh. If you were to buy these and throw them in your tool carry, you could expect to carry around 14.5 ounces more than you did before you had them in your bag. Two more things we like to take a look at when we look at these is how hard is the metal jaw, and we use the Rockwell C scale for that, and how soft are the grips, and we use a Sure A scale for that to check the durometer. So we'll start with the jaw, get that open all the way. I'm going to start right away with the 55, and we are skating. Oh yeah, absolutely skating. So a 60 is starting to dig in. You heard a good noise there on that 60. 65 definitely digs in, and 65 definitely digs in there. So I'm going to give these, I think the 60 was just starting to dig in, which we like to go to the top end. Heard that? We're going to go 55 to 60 on the ability to scratch into these jaws. They're pretty hard. And now the durometer test. We have to make sure we don't want to go in the valley here. We want to go on the outer radiuses when we test this. So we have about a 74.5 there. 72. 74. 73. I'm going to go ahead and say this is a 73. Okay, we are over at the vise with the NWS, and we are going to see if we can get to 100 foot-pounds. Now I can't get to a really good grip on this, so I'm not quite sure what's gonna happen. We might slip off because the handles are open further than I would like, but we're gonna give it a try all the same. Yeah, the angle here is a little awkward, so let's see what we can do. Here we go. Now the handles are springing on me. I was able to get to 75, but I was starting to roll everything over in the vise because of how we were grabbing it. Okay, we are back from the vise, and let's take a look at these pliers and see exactly how they fared out with our testing. Now, I'm a little bit disappointed. These have that coarser adjust. I wasn't able to get these handles to a point where I really liked them, and ultimately they were open further than I wanted, and I wasn't able to hold on to these, which I think resulted in our much lower numbers in the test. So let's take a look here at what happened. And we're going to start with our fixed jaw. Get that into focus. And you can see there's some definite marring in these right here, and I can definitely feel that. All the way across I can feel it. So that has definitely marked up the jaw. You can see right there it's peened over just a hair. I have those millimeter markings on there. And on our movable jaw, let's try and get that into focus. Here you can see it got some marring as well, and here's where it really slipped. It didn't slip as much on the top. Here's where you see the slipping. There was a previous, I don't know, that might be a second, I might have tried to bite it second time. But there's definitely some marring there. You can see it along there, kind of grooved out a little bit. I can feel that. Not bad. We definitely saw worse with like the vice grip or something, but a little bit disappointing. Some of it is this coarse adjusting. Let's take a look at the tool overall. There's some numbers on there, and then there's your scale matching. We can close that up. So that's what it would look like. Call it the gripper. 52 millimeter. Construction is interesting. I really think if I could have had it adjusted a little better, we would have got the 100 foot-pounds out of it. I think it was just because I didn't have, it's this coarse adjust mechanism. I just wasn't able to get it. Your K2, everything's nicely stamped in here. There's your handles. Handles have a little bit of texture. You can kind of see some of that coming across there in the microscope. Reverse side of the pliers. You have the jaw. There's your spring. And those coarser adjust. Machining is nice. It's not as polished as we saw on some of the others, but it's definitely not bad. Decent quality tool. Overall, I'm not too upset. I'm a little bit bummed out we didn't get to the 100 foot-pounds, but let's see what we can do over in the load cell vise. Okay, we're back over at the load cell vise, and this time we have our NWS K2s over at the load cell. So now what we're going to do is we're going to take two different sets of measurements. The first one with the load cell at the tip of the pliers, and then for the second one we're going to slide the load cell all the way back as far as we can in the pliers to see how much force changes and how much the pliers stretches. So first step, get this thing in the load cell vise. Let's get 5 applied to it. So 5 is 36 and 2 1/4. Now we're going to go up to 75. And these are squeezing in. Wow. There we go. 75, 425, and 1 1/4 for the tip measurements. Now we're going to redo that same test after we slide the load cell all the way back in the jaw. Now we're going to go for 5. I just saw a negative number. I got to reset. Might as well reset this one too. Okay, everything's reset. Let's try this again. Start to get something on that. We'll get 5. Alright, 43. 2 3/8. Take this up to 75. Yeah, we're going to see a little bit more force out of that. Okay. We'll call it 775. It's leaning off. 1.5 inches. So these get pretty good force out of them. Kind of an interesting comparison to the Knipex. So we're back from the load cell vise with some interesting results. I really wonder if these slipped because they were so far open on me on the 5/8 hex test. I think I would have gotten more out of them had they not been already so far open. The force test kind of backs that up in that we're able to get a decent amount of force out of these jaws. I feel like it was because the handles were open so far on me, I lost it. So I'm not sure how to qualify that. I think this is a good pair of pliers. I really do. This is your main contender to the Knipex market. They're priced about the same. I would say The overall build quality is probably akin to Knipex. For the price, I think you could either or and still have a really good pair of pliers. These aren't overly as mainstream in North America. I don't know about guys in Europe if these are kind of common or not, but these aren't overly common to see in North America. And I think as far as availability for replacements and what have you, Knipex would be easier. It's around a lot more places here in North America. But I don't think this is a bad pair of pliers. It stacks up fairly closely to Knipex, and I think it's going to perform pretty equal, given you can get the handles adjusted properly. You do have a more finite handle adjustment with the Knipex, which is going to be an advantage for the Knipex against the NWS. Both pliers are very well made. I feel like the Knipex probably edges out a little bit in quality as far as machining, but they left their surfaces a little bit unfinished, whereas Knipex did finish off some. But I'd say the Knipex casting or forging would be a little bit better quality. It's a little bit smoother. But overall, they're basically the same price point, and I do think this is a contender. It's as much of a contender as we've seen for these. I don't think you'd go wrong with these. Again, like I said, if you end up, this basically has twice as many adjustments the way it looks as this. So if you're in that half size, these are going to excel. So I guess I would say on that alone, this is probably a better value for the money, seeing that this costs about the same. But I don't know that you're going to go wrong with the NWS. Let me know what your thoughts are below. Let me know if you have a pair of the NWS, what you think of them. Have you had the Knipex as well and compared the two and what your thoughts are? I don't think if you have these, I don't think you have a bad pair of pliers at all. I think they're decent, and I think they're going to hold up pretty good. I don't think you're going to have any mechanical issues with them or anything like that. I think they're going to hold up, and you're going to have a tool for a long time, much like you would with the Knipex. For the price point, I don't think you can really go wrong getting these, aside from if you need a lot of adjustments. You might be a little frustrated with these, because as you saw, I was not able to get 100 foot-pounds out of these on that 5/8 hex, just because of the way the handles were. I'm almost convinced it's the way the handles were, because our jaw forces and everything else, we should have been able to hold on to that. So let me know in the comments what your thoughts are, if you have these, if you've used them, what you like, what you don't like. I think that's all very interesting for people to read below and get an idea of what they might look for in a set of pliers as well. So as always, thanks for watching, and have a great day.